Today, we're doing something a little different. We're stepping away from the usual explainers to tell a true story. This was sent to us by a subscriber, Rahul Mita, and it's a deeply unsettling account of a road trip that went somewhere, well, somewhere very dark. So let's get into it.
Rahul's story starts with this one sentence. It says that something happened on that trip that took him more than 2 years to recover from. Think about that for a second. This isn't just a story about a bad vacation. This was an ordeal that would push him and his friends to the absolute brink.
All right, so let's set the stage. The year is 2018. Rahul, who's from Surat, is about to start a whole new chapter in his life. He's moving to Canada for his studies. So, to celebrate, he and his 4 closest friends decide to have one last big adventure together, a road trip to the hill stations of Saputara and Mahabaleshwar. You know, they figured it would be a trip they'd remember for the rest of their lives. They were right, of course, but for all the wrong reasons.
And here's where things start to take their first turn. The original plan, simple, take a car. But just a few days before they were supposed to leave, they decided to switch to bikes. They wanted more of an adventure. A seemingly small change, right? But looking back, this was the first domino to fall, a decision that left them exposed and put them on a path they never could have imagined.
So let's meet the crew at the heart of this story. There's Rahul, who's telling us what happened. Then there's Neil, Amit, Karan, and Rohan. I want you to really remember their names, because their bond, their friendship, was about to be tested by something none of them could possibly understand.
So they head out, riding toward Saputara. And that initial thrill, that excitement of a road trip, it starts to fade. The air gets heavier. And this quiet sense of unease starts to creep in, as thick as the fog rolling down the mountains. It was like the mountains themselves were watching.
You know how it is, young guys on a trip, feeling on top of the world, the jokes are flying, everyone's having a good time. But then one of them, Karan, he makes a joke that, well, it goes a little too far. Just a careless comment about the spirits that might live in the mountains.
And just like that, the mood changes. Amit, he wasn't having it. He just shuts him down, completely serious. His warning was so sharp, so sudden, it was the first real sign of tension. It was a clear sign that these mountains demanded a certain respect, a respect that they just weren't showing.
When they finally get to Saputara, it's like they've driven straight into a cloud. This thick, heavy fog that just eats everything. After they check into their hotel, this weird, unnatural exhaustion hits all of them. They just shrugged it off as being tired from the ride, but it felt like more than that. It felt like the mountain itself was pressing down on them.
And that night, they make another one of those decisions that you just know is a bad idea. They decide to ignore the big no camping signs and sneak up to the highest point to set up their tents for the night. They were deliberately breaking the rules, stepping into a place where they were explicitly told not to go.
Okay, this is it. This is where the fun stops and the nightmare really kicks in. They get settled for the night. Rahul and Neil are in one tent, Amit and Connor in another, and Rohan is in a tent by himself. And then, this deep, eerie quiet falls over the entire mountain.
At exactly 3:45 in the morning, Rahul's eyes just snap open. He's instantly wide awake. The air is freezing, everything is still, but he's filled with this absolute dread. It's that feeling, when you wake up and you just know something is terribly wrong. And that's when he sees it. Cast against the thin wall of the tent are shadows. 3 of them. 2 look like women, 1 like a man. But their shapes were just wrong, twisted, inhuman, and they were moving silently, just outside.
And then the sound started. A wet, tearing sound. It was primal and unmistakable and absolutely horrifying. He realizes what it is. It's the sound of flesh being ripped apart. The figures outside were feeding on something, or someone. He and Neil just lay there, completely frozen in terror, just listening, until the sun came up.
The second the sun rises, it's pure panic. They scramble out, pack their stuff in a blind rush, and just run. But halfway down the mountain, it hits them. Rohan isn't with them. They race back up to the camp to find him. He's just standing there, rigid, staring at nothing. And he's speaking, but it's in some local dialect he's never, ever heard before.
They somehow manage to drag this half-conscious Rohan back to their hotel. And the manager, when he sees the state they're in, the look on his face is just total horror. He asks them, "Why did you go up there? That place is known for witches, for dark spirits. They get active after dark." Their little thrill-seeking adventure had led them right into a place the locals knew was cursed.
So a local priest performs a quick ritual, and the guys, they just went out. They bolt for Mahabaleshwar. They're thinking, okay, it's over, we left it behind on that mountain. But they were so wrong. The nightmare had just begun, and it was following them.
This next part is where things get completely surreal. They all wake up at 2 in the morning. Not in their hotel beds, no. They're all standing at some dark, deserted viewpoint, miles away from where they were staying. And then this voice, this inhuman voice, just echoes out of the darkness saying, "None of you are going back tonight." Rahul then sees this horrific vision of his friends, their faces totally blank, attacking each other. He runs and finds himself back at what he thinks is the hotel, only to see the manager, who gives him this horrible smile as his neck twists a full 180 degrees. The next thing they know, they wake up in an empty field. The hotel? It was gone. It was never even there.
They made it home, somehow, but they weren't the same people who left. The experience had shattered them, and they knew, with a terrifying certainty, that whatever they found in those mountains, it had come back with them.
Their families, completely desperate, bring in a powerful priest. For an entire month, the friends go through these intense, draining religious rituals to try and cleanse themselves of whatever had attached to them. And then, on the very last day of the rituals, and this is just chilling, Amit's father dies. Suddenly, mysteriously, like a final payment was due.
The priest finally gave them an explanation, but it wasn't a comforting one. He told them that Rahul had made it through because he had some kind of divine protection. But the others, they didn't. The implication is just terrifying, that while some grace had saved Rahul, his friends were left exposed and were forever marked by what they'd seen.
Rahul eventually moved to Canada, trying to start over, but you can't outrun something like this. His story is this bone-chilling reminder that some warnings are there for a reason, and some doors should never, ever be opened. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What happens when a memory becomes a shadow that follows you for the rest of your life?